what's the biggest mistake you see that a small business makes with like their Google profile?
So with the Google profile, there's a couple. One, not taking any action. Two, not checking on it regularly because Google will suggest an edit or somebody else can suggest an edit. So there was, it's so sad to say, but there was a scam going around like a couple months ago where kids basically were going in and moving people's locations because you can just suggest an edit.
Uh,
So all of a sudden, there were a lot of legitimate companies where their location had been moved, and you can only imagine how that's going to hurt business if your potential patient's ready to come in and they just go on Google and they're like, "Hey, your location isn't where it says it is anymore." So checking in on things, making sure that you have accurate information, making sure that you've provided as much information that you can. I think a lot of people try to get like 100% score, which isn't needed when it tells you like how much information you filled out. But you do want to supply as much information as possible. Make sure that you're selecting the proper business category as your primary category. And then if you can, if you do have additional services that would fall under other categories, we always suggest that you select an additional category or two that's going to amplify your reach, making sure that your NAP, which is your name, address, and phone number, needs to be correct on that listing and on all other listings, because that's a signal to Google this is a legitimate business.
and they all hold hands with one another.
They all
So
they all squish into that little Oreo cookie.
yeah, they all, yeah, oh yeah, the squishing the Oreo cookie. So um with that, we've had people who are like, what do I do about a 1-star review? I had somebody who, well, we have people who will get 1-star reviews, but the people were never even their customers. And they're like,
Yeah.
who are you? Or it's just like bizarre. Like, I wanted this to be a dentist, but they're not. They only work on backs. And they gave a 1-star review, and
Yeah.
it was like that. Or I mean, it was like a completely different business, but then it stayed up. So
So one, don't engage with them unless, well, one, I am not a professional when it comes to HIPAA compliance and what each individual clinic needs to do based on what they were guided towards.
mm,
If somebody says something like we've had people be like, oh, I was mad that the dog water bowl dish wasn't out in front. And you're like, you never came into the establishment. Like it has absolutely nothing to do. You can respond with something like, I think you have us confused with the location next door. If it's a very Captain Obvious, they weren't even in our location, that's okay.
mm.
Otherwise, don't engage. Just report it and don't engage. That's the best suggestions that I have when it comes to that. Obviously, people are going to leave bad reviews. Like it's just unfortunately we live in a time and place where people don't realize how that affects businesses and they don't necessarily give thought to it. So you do want to make sure that you proceed with caution. Again, if it's like a complete like, oh well, they didn't give me breadsticks with my pasta, and you're like, we're an orthodontist, why would we? You can respond very like, I think you
Yeah.
have us mixed up with somebody else. But again, if it's above that and it's harsh, just report it, don't engage.